What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Create 0.3, and today we are going to be setting up a cake factory. Now, you guys have been asking for this for quite some time now, and I am super thrilled to finally be able to do a video on it because the setup today is going to be awesome. It's going to have a ton of moving parts, be absolutely enormous, and wicked complicated overall. So obviously that is just a great setup to start, and what makes it even better is it's going to spit out cake for us at the end, so it really does not get much better than that. I do want to say before we jump into anything else that an overview of the setup is going to be a main crafting area and then 4 different miniature farms that allow us to get the 4 ingredients that we need to actually make a cake. So that's why it's going to be a relatively long video today because we're covering all of it from start to finish. But again, I think it's going to be really cool because it's going to be super complicated, and we all like that because obviously we're playing with the Create mod, and the point here is to make really cool looking stuff that is wickedly overly complicated to get us things we don't need, like cake. And this is going to give us chests and chests of cake. If it were real life, we would balloon up to 500 pounds, but obviously we're really lucky we're playing Minecraft, so our avatar's not going to gain any weight, so we're just going to shovel as much cake as we possibly can fit into our face for the rest of this series, because that is the way that it was intended to be. So because there is so much to cover, we're not going to be doing any crafting in today's episode. We're very quickly going to run through all the requirements right now for this whole setup, but if you don't care and you just want to get into the building, you can feel free to skip to the next section of the video. But if you want to know what we need, again, we're going to quickly run through it. This is everything you are possibly going to need for this, but it will be 20 wheat seeds, at least half a stack of glass, 4 radial chassis, 2 mechanical bearings, 4 mechanical harvesters, 10 chests, 4 hoppers, at least 2 buckets of water, 4 portable storage interface, 4 encased chain drives, 13 brass funnels, a smart chute, a bucket of lava, a slime ball, a deployer, 1 piece of wheat, a piece of sugar, 12 sugar cane, 2 large cogwheels, 8 regular cogwheels, 31 shafts, 10 gearboxes, both vertical or normal, doesn't really matter, 7 andesite funnels, a millstone, 9 mechanical crafters, a milk bucket, 4 depots, a mechanical arm, and 6 mechanical belts. And then alongside that, we're also going to need what we'll be bringing in later to help with some of the automation, 6 redstone links, 3 stockpile switch, 4 water wheels to actually give this rotational power. You're not going to need these if you already have something else to supply it with roughly 700 stress capacity. You really don't need that much, but these will do the trick. And then we have eggs just to do some filtering and also to spawn the chickens. And then one of the last things that I haven't really noted yet, but we have out there, is a single cow that is attached to a fence with a lead. So you're also going to need that, but again, that's not an item, so we can't really put it in here. But we can go and grab all this stuff out now. My goodness, that was an absolute mouthful. Some of these big setups require so much stuff to do. And then I guess we can also grab out some eggs just so we can use those for filtering. Okay, so we're going to be setting everything up right out here in the open. We've got a nice cleared out area where there should be more than enough space to make everything work properly. The main reason we are not setting it up inside a building somewhere is just because it's so big and there are so many moving parts that we have to get working together properly. It is a lot easier to set it up outside and then actually build something around it later, which will probably end up being something like a cake dispensary so that we only see the portion of where it's crafting stuff and just kind of hide the rest. And then alongside that, there's a ton of other baked goods and foods that we're going to be automating in this series. And so I'll probably put those sort of somewhere around this. So I'll have to do the planning of that later. But we can start out by setting up the first portion of this right in front of us here. And this would be the mechanical crafters. Now, I want to make sure that we have enough room behind us because we are going to have to move out a bit from these. So we can probably do them right about here. And we may need to clear out even more space, but we're going to be setting these up so that there is a 3x3 like a regular crafting grid. Now, one little tangent I want to go off on a little bit right here is that when you look at the cake, there is obviously the vanilla method of crafting it, and then you have the automated crafting using the mechanical crafters, which is pretty much just automating the vanilla version. But I am amazed that Create does not have some sort of mixing with all these ingredients to make cake batter or something. And then much like the blaze cake, you kind of have the blaze cake base, almost like a tin that you fill with lava to make the cake. I don't know why you can't fill a cake base or a cake tin with cake batter that you mix to make it a little bit easier to automate the production of this. That just surprises me. It's a little bit of a tangent. I think it'd be great if they added that in, but I was amazed that this is the only way to go about automating the production of this. But the way we're going to do this is obviously by filling up mechanical crafters with all these ingredients, of which there are 4, and then it'll make it for us and we'll be good to go. So this is really the easiest part of the setup, but we need to make it so that this automates very easily. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that all the mechanical crafters are pointing towards each other. So we need our wrench, and then we're just going to flip these bottom ones so they point into the center here, but then everything else should be pointing into another. These top ones are all coming down. These are pointing into the center, and this is going to drop the item out the bottom here. So we can just come down here. My shovel is way too strong for us right now, but we'll just come down here and put our chests down. We want one right down below them here. This is where the items will be output. We don't care that we can't open this because the items will immediately be pulled out of here later. But for now, we're just going to leave it like this. This is where both the buckets from the milk will go and the cake that we get out. And it's important that we get the buckets back because if we want to make this into an infinite cake producing setup, well, then we need to be able to recycle the buckets. So now that we have that, we need to go over how you can easily automate the proper items going into these. And that means we need some of our brass funnels. So an interesting mechanic not a lot of people know about is the ability to use brass funnels to filter what is going to go into different sections of the mechanical crafter setup that we have, especially if we are using a mechanical arm to place the items in there. And that's obviously what we're doing today, because later on you'll see why that makes our life so much easier, or it at least makes the automation of this even possible. So it's important that we set this up. And the way we're going to do it is by placing down 5 brass funnels in a plus shape right across the center of these 9 mechanical crafters. Now, the reason that we're only doing 5 of these instead of covering the entire front face is another mechanic that a lot of people, again, don't know about or utilize, which is if you come to the back of the mechanical crafters, you can select, if you have your wrench, these different lines between the adjacent mechanical crafters. And if you right click, you can remove them. Now, what this does is it makes it so all of these are acting like a shared inventory. So all of these at the top here need to be buckets of milk. So all we need to do is filter so that a mechanical arm puts buckets of milk in this central one right here, and all 3 of these will share an inventory and the milk will go in all of these. Now we can do that same thing with the bottom here. Unfortunately, we do need to have 2 things of sugar, both on the left center and right center 3. And so these are not going to be able to work that same way because they're not adjacent. So unfortunately, we do need to have 2 separate brass funnels for those, but it saves us a lot of resources when it comes to the top and bottom ingredients of this. So that's definitely nice. All we got to do now is take out the different things and filter them. So we want to set the filter on the top here to a bucket of milk. Then we want to set the central one to some eggs. We want to set the left and right to sugar, and then finally at the bottom we want to set this to wheat. So now we've got all the items ready to be placed in here, but we need the mechanical arm to do that. So we'll grab this out, and we actually should probably put down the depots first because we do need to set what we want this mechanical arm to grab from and what we also want it to place down. So we're going to be putting the depots right here, and I know if I use my shovel it's going to absolutely tear through this, but we're going to put the depots right here and right here. So we'll put 2 like this and 2 like this, and then we can just fill that back in. And now what we'll do is take the mechanical arm and we're going to right click on these 4 depots, and you can see when they're blue it says it takes items from the depot, and then we are going to right click on these brass funnels, and these are then going to be yellowish orange, and it will deposit items into those. So once we have all these properly selected, then we can simply put down our mechanical arm right here, and this will now take from all of these and put them in here. And because there are filters, it will be smart enough to know when items can be picked up and put in there and when they can't. So it'll appropriately fill everything once it's done, or if it, doesn't need to put anything else in there for milk and it only has milk in the depot, well, then it's just going to wait until it has the appropriate items to put in there. So eventually we're going to have to power this using a regular cogwheel, which will go right here. We're not going to do anything for the time being just because we don't have the other stuff set up that's going to transfer into that. But Now that we have this, we should be able to put up all of our chests, which will hold majority of the additional resources that'll go into these depots. Because obviously, if we're inputting one item at a time, these are only going to be able to hold that single item. So we need to make sure that they have a little bit of a buffer to hold the additional ones, because some of these farms are going to be going faster than others. They're not going to be going at the exact same rate. So we're going to put chests down, and we're going to take our andesite funnels and put one coming off of each of these right onto the depot. And we need to make sure we take our wrench and wrench these so that the arrow is facing down. We want the items to come from the chest to the depot, not the other way around. When you first place them, it'll be facing like this. Incorrect. We want it to go this way. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And then finally, we want to put down some more brass funnels on the back of these chests, which is going to be pulling off the belts that will eventually come here and putting the items in. So just like this, thankfully, these will be the correct direction to start. And now we just want to take out our items and decide whichever side we want stuff to go on and filter it like that. So on the right here, we are going to filter wheat on this one and eggs on this one. And then on the left side, we are going to filter sugar and milk. And it doesn't matter really which side or order you put them in. You just want to make sure that they are on the appropriate side for where the farm that gets you those items is eventually going to go. So now that we have this crafting portion set up, we actually need to get some items in here so it can do the crafting for us. And to start out, we're going to be working on this side, which will get us our sugar and our milk. And we're going to have a belt system that runs all the way back here that gets the items from behind the crafters, just so we can have it look a little bit cleaner. So we're going to dig through here and run the belts all the way up to right where this final brass funnel is. And then we're going to bring them back about 3 or 4 blocks from the mechanical crafter. And this should be sufficient room for us to work with. So right here, we're going to put down just our 2 initial shafts in the belt system and then build off that. So one here. If we need to extend this, 1 or 2, depending on, how you're going to be building around this, you can do that. Doesn't really matter. These have max of 20, so shouldn't be an issue if you need to extend it a couple more. So we're going to start out by building the sugarcane farm right off this belt, and then we can move on to the cow and milk farm right after that. But this one's going to be a little bit more extensive than even the wheat farm we set up, just because we need to convert the sugar to sugarcane. And the easiest way to do that is by using a millstone. You could just use a single mechanical crafter, but the millstone will get us a little bit more sugar since it gives us 2 with the chance of a 3rd one instead of just giving us 1. So we'll put this down, and then we'll put down an andesite funnel coming off that, and this will just deposit our sugar right onto the mechanical belt, which is all well and good. But now we need to get this hooked up so that we can have the sugarcane automatically put in here. And an easy way to do that is simply by using a hopper that goes directly into the millstone, if it wants to let us place it down properly, that is. These are always so finicky because you need to click on this bottom portion to get it in there. But we're going to put down a hopper, and then we're going to put down a portable storage interface. So this can go down right on top of here, and this will accept the items from our farm whenever it stops running to drop them off. They'll get put into this hopper and directly into this millstone, which will then output onto this belt. So we're going to want to make sure that we are 1 block away from this first portable storage interface when we put down the second one, just so that they have no issue connecting. So we can use a miscellaneous block to get right between those 2, and then just flip this one back to face it, and make sure if it falls in the hopper, you grab it out so it doesn't clog up your system. But now these should be good to connect to each other whenever we get the farm running. And obviously it's elevated 1 off the ground because it's a sugarcane farm. We've never set one up before, but it should be pretty self-explanatory that the sugarcane needs to be harvested at the 2nd level or the 3rd level instead of the 1st. Otherwise, it's not going to regrow. So we have this down now, and then we're going to put the chest directly next to this that will hold all the sugarcane till it drops it off. And then we'll put down our mechanical bearing right here, and then put down 2 radial chassis right above it. Now we need to make sure that we make the appropriate sides sticky, so we should be able to access this one right there, make that one sticky, then make this side sticky, and then we'll put down our 2 mechanical harvesters on this side, and you might have to adjust the direction they're facing, just depending on the direction of rotation you eventually get. But we'll put down 1 right there, and we do need to have blocks behind them to put them down, but then we can get rid of these, and they can function on their own even if they're not attached to anything. Then we want to take out our wrench and scroll this down to 2, because we want to make sure the only things it's holding on to are the chest and interface on this side and the harvesters on this side. So now once we give this some rotational power, it should be good to run. And we are going to quickly come down here and give it some rotational power, or we're going to at least run the rotational power over here for when we eventually have it. So we'll just fill this in right here. And then we're going to grab out our vertical gearboxes, put one down right here, run 2 shafts to bring it out a little bit over here, like so. And then we should be good to bring it up right here. So we'll just slap another vertical gearbox down, bring a shaft up, and then we can cover this back up, and we should have no issue now with setting up the rest of the sugarcane around here. And the way we're going to do this, or at least the way I'm going to do this, is simply by putting water down at these corners, right, like this, and then we should be able to put down a fair bit of sugarcane around here, more than enough for what we want to do today. But I am going to make an infinite water source right here because we need so much water for today's setup. So obviously we have to just keep refilling these, and we'll be able to put our sugarcane down right here. So we have 12 of them. That'll be enough to fill up all the available blocks that we can put them down in right here. So around each of these. And you can choose to set yours up however you like, but you want to make sure that your mechanical harvesters will be able to harvest every piece you have growing. So once this starts running, it should be good to go. Harvest all of this, deposit it over here. And the way we're going to get rotational power to this will be by setting up a large cogwheel along with 2 small cogwheels. So the large one will go right here, and then a small one, and then another small one right here. And then we're going to put down a gearbox right here, and we'll just want to make sure that our dirt doesn't stay on there. But we're going to put down a gearbox right here. And obviously this is going to connect to this portion of the belt. So this will get rotational power when the belt does. It'll give the millstone rotational power and then bring it over here. And yes, it does tear it down because it's going from small to large, but that doesn't matter because the speed of our farm doesn't matter. It'll actually save us some stress units because we don't need this to run very fast anyway. So that should all be good to go now. It'll deposit the items perfectly fine. And now we can move on to the cow milking setup. And this one is going to be a little bit of a pain to eventually get the cow in here, but we're going to set up the deployer first. And this is actually really easy to do. We're just going to make it so the deployer is right here and rotate it so that it is facing this block, which is where the cow is eventually going to be right here. And then we're going to put a hopper coming into the side of this. And eventually we're going to run the buckets up on a belt that comes up here. Now, once we have it like this, there's not much more to do other than simply putting down a brass funnel on the back of this and then putting an empty bucket to be in the filter slot. Or not an empty bucket, a milk bucket, sorry. We want a milk bucket to be in here so that that's what comes out. And once we give this rotational power, and if we could orient it so that it could accept rotational power properly, we have to actually replace it because it needs to accept it from the side. So let's see if I place it down like this. If it's any better, it should be. There we go. So we have the rotational power coming in here from the side, and we're going to connect this simply by running some shafts and a small cogwheel right along here. So we're going to put down our shafts like this, and then a cogwheel right here. So once we eventually give this power, which will power the crafters, it will also give power to this deployer. And then our cow is simply going to be encased in glass right over here. So we'll put them down just like this. The cow will eventually sit right here. And then we're just going to put a filter of an empty bucket on here. So the empty buckets come in here, they get into the deployer. It then milks the cow and puts them onto this belt right here to go back and be used for crafting. Okay, I did it. I got him inside the glass. That was horrible. Moving him over here, a little bit of a pain in the butt, but now he's in there. So this guy can just get milked indefinitely, which is great. We don't need to worry about having multiple cows in there or anything. But now we need to worry about getting the buckets that end up emptying over to this hopper. So the way we're going to do this is by setting up a belt system that first comes up here, and then we're going to run it all the way down and grab them from over here. So we need to dig down right here to this chest. And we're going to be setting up a second belt system that comes off of this and runs over here to come then up there. So we're going to put down a shaft right here, rotate it, and then I believe we should be good with the shaft right here. No, we might need to even make it one closer now that I think about it. So I think we should be able to put it right here, mainly because then over here, we're going to have it directly put onto this belt system. So we need another one right like this, and then rotate that just like that. So we can connect a belt to put these two together, and the glass shouldn't affect it, but we do need to get rid of these blocks right like that. So we should be good now. Cool, so the glass doesn't affect it. This can run perfectly fine. And once it gets up here, the buckets will go right into this hopper and go right into this deployer. And then down here, we're just going to connect this to this, and this belt system right here will join these two. So that'll be all good. Then we just need to put a brass funnel on this side of the chest right here and make sure that we filter this so that it's pulling the empty buckets only out this side. And again, just make sure nothing's clogging up our belt system. So there we go. We have that all set. Now, finally, we need to come over here and make sure the rotational power is properly getting transferred between these two, because obviously the goal of this whole setup, if you haven't already guessed, is to input rotational power in one part and get it to go to everywhere and have it properly have it correctly rotating each part, since all these belts need to be going in the right direction. So we're going to take a gearbox. We need to make it horizontal over here, put it down right like this, and then take out our encased chain drives and put two down over here, and then simply connect these with a shaft. And I believe that that should make these go in the proper direction. So now we have all that. That one is good to go. We have the buckets coming back up here. They'll get milked, come back over here. So this side is essentially done. Once we get rotational power coming over here, these will both function properly. Now what we can do is start working on this side, which is going to give us our eggs from a chicken farm and our wheat from a wheat farm. So we're going to do the exact same thing and simply dig back here to run a belt system, pretty much the same distance as we did over there. I think it should be, so we might have gone one too far over here, but we should be able to set up the, we might actually need to come back one further on this side now that I think about it. Yeah, I think we do. It needs to be in line with this right here. So we do need to come back one further over here, but we should be good then to set up our shaft right up here, rotate that, and then our shaft right back here, and again, rotate this one, and then belt these two together and go like that. So there we go. Now the chicken farm is going to be right over here too. And this one obviously is one of the easiest ones to do. So we're going to put down we'll put down a grass block right here just so we can build on top of it. But we'll put down a chest right like this. And then we'll put down a andesite funnel coming right off of it to deposit the items here. And then a hopper into this chest. And we'll put a bunch of chickens right on top of this hopper. So I don't think we have sufficient eggs in our inventory right now to do it, but we will eventually. So I'll waste a little bit of glass right there. And we can put these down, and then I can encase them in there once we get them in, so it's no issue. But I'll leave it open like this until I go and grab all the eggs and eventually hatch at least a couple chickens in here. You really don't need that many. Trust me, your shortage will not be on eggs, since you only need 1 egg to 3 of some of these resources. So this is where the chickens will go. As long as this is pointing out, we are pretty much all set. There's no rotational power or anything that has to go in there. So that's definitely great. Now we need to set up our wheat farm, which admittedly is very similar to our sugarcane farm, but we need to get it good to go. And we need to also deal with the fact that we're going to have excess seeds coming out of here. So that's a little bit different. So we'll grab out all the stuff that we need to set this up. And to start out, we're going to be putting down a chest that's going to deposit right, I believe it should be right here onto this system. And so we'll put down a brass funnel, because below this, we're also going to be putting down a smart chute. So we'll put that down, if I could find it in my inventory, right here. And we'll actually dig one more down and put down lava, then put down the smart chute. So the smart chute can go right there. And this, if you couldn't already guess, is going to have seeds put on the filter so that those drop down. And then this one is going to have wheat put on the filter so that the wheat comes onto the belt right here. So this chest will be where everything ends up going from our farm, which means that we're going to have a hopper putting all the stuff from a portable storage interface onto this. So portable storage interface will be up here. Now the reason it's going to be higher up is just because we don't want to drop this down, and so that's why we're going to have a 2-high wheat farm here. You guys will see what I'm talking about in a second. But again, we're doing the same thing where we use a miscellaneous block to build one off of this, put down our portable storage interface, get rid of that block, flip this over. Then we're going to put down the chest directly next to this. And then we'll put down the mechanical harvesters on the bottom right down here. And we actually need these blocks to get them placed down properly, right like that. And then we need to put down our mechanical bearing and our radial chassis, just like we did with the other setup. So we'll dig down one and put that down right here. Radial chassis, just like that. Whoops, man, this thing just tears up the ground. I should not have made something this powerful if I couldn't handle it. Huge mistake. And then we'll make these both sticky. And again, we can just hold and scroll down and then also bring this one to 2. I know we could hold control and scroll both down at the same time. I'm clearly being inefficient here. So now that these are both hooked on, we should be good to go. But I had to make a quick trip back to the base because I totally forgot I had not grabbed out my hoe so we could till the land. But we're going to quickly do that. We just need to pick one area to fill with water. So I do need to go refill our bucket over here. But then we can fill one area with water. That should be more than enough to hydrate all the soil. So we'll just pick right here because it doesn't really matter. And then we're just going to till the soil around here. And obviously the issue we run into is we need to make this run before we can till the areas right below this. But I believe as long as we leave these corner blocks not tilled, everything else will be collected. So these corner blocks will not be collected by this, but everything else will. So then we need to plant our seeds. And I believe in total this should take 19 once we are able to till the soil below those 2 blocks. Yep. So once this starts moving, we'll be good to go. But again, we need to input rotational power in here, just like we did with the other setup. So we're going to come down, and we'll actually come down a little bit more, dig over, and then put our stuff down very similar to how we did it before. Again, put down our vertical gearbox right here, grab out our 2 shafts so that we can connect them up like this. And then let's just build up here with some dirt so that we can get out. So dirt right there, another vertical gearbox, another shaft, and again, we're going to be going with a large cogwheel on this one. So put down the large cogwheel. It'll save us some stress capacity, and then we can put down a regular cogwheel right here. And then we're going to dig down just like this and put down another vertical gearbox and then use 2 shafts right here to connect it to this belt system. So shaft right here, shaft right here. So then this will receive power when this belt system receives power too, which is exactly what we want because it'll make it a lot easier to bring power back here. So once this is powered, it'll start running, collect everything. This chest over here will drop all the seeds down. I love that we can now in 0.3.1 use smart chutes to filter stuff out. So these will drop into the lava and burn because we don't care. And then the wheat will come onto this belt right here and be carried up front. Okay, so now that we have pretty much all the farms set up, we need to start getting the rotational power coming into our setup, and we're not going to put the water wheels down just yet. We don't want this to actually start running, but we want to make sure that if we input rotational power, which will be coming in right here, I'm going to put down the shaft right there just so we know where it's coming in. Then we're going to need to make sure that everything connected to this is getting rotational power. So right out the gate, because this is getting it, then right over here, we know that this wheat farm will be running. No issue there. This will be going. The chicken farm is going to be running just because the belt system out here is pulling eggs out and nothing else needs to be done there. But obviously everything else needs to get hooked up to this. So the way that we are going to deal with this is by hooking up everything in the front right here. So first things first, we are going to dig right like this and bring rotational power in from this belt right here into a vertical gearbox that puts power up into this cogwheel. So we're going to put down a shaft right here, a shaft right here, and a shaft right here. So this will turn this, make the mechanical arm work, and that's great because that'll allow it to start crafting once it has the items. Now the next thing is we need to start pulling rotational power out this side. So we're going to break these 2 blocks right here and put down a vertical gearbox right here, and then also another vertical gearbox right here. And this one is going to connect just like that. And then right here, we're just going to use a shaft to connect these. So we now have power coming from this mechanical arm over here. And this one then, we should be able to connect if we just put a shaft down right down here. We can just double check that that did get placed. Yep. So now we have rotational power coming into this belt over here so that this is moving and anything connected to this belt is moving. We'll just put the dirt back down. We now have it so that this is also powering this cogwheel here, powering the mechanical crafters, powering the deployer over here too. And then the last thing that we need to do is get power to this belt system, which is also giving power to this belt system. And to do that, we are going to come down, and it's going to get a little bit messy, but we're going to come down here, and there's also one other belt system we have to set up too that I totally spaced out on. But we're going to come down, and right down here, we're going to dig this area out, and we need to run a belt system out front here. So that's one thing that we didn't do yet. So we're going to dig down like this, because this is where the actual cake is going to come from. All these things keep getting stuck on these depots. We want to bring it out so that the cake ends up pretty much right up here. So that's where our final chest is going to go. And we can just put that down right there. I believe it should be good. Then we need to put a shaft right here and right here. Rotate these with the wrench like that. Connect these with a belt. And then put down another shaft right down here. Again, rotate it. Put down another one right here. And we can put down another one right here. We can rotate this one because this is going to be the belt system. So we'll just connect that. Oop. I need to be able to get through there. Oh my gosh. It's so confined down here. Okay, so we connect these right like that. This is going to be the system that pulls the cake out. So we don't have a cake yet. I will put a filter on this later for a cake, but the cake is going to be coming out right here from this filter. And then finally over here, we need to use some cogwheels to get power down here properly. So we're going to use our 3 additional cogwheels, and it looks like I'm actually short on 1 or 2 shafts that we need to use. So apparently I didn't count properly. Okay, so I grabbed all the shafts that I could possibly need, but we're going to come down here, pull rotational power from this belt over here, bring it in, put down a cogwheel right there, another one down there to connect to this, which connects to that belt over there that's carrying the buckets. And then finally, another one that connects to this belt right here, because these need to be going in opposite directions. So now this belt is powered. The belts in the back should all be powered. So everything in here, if we just start supplying rotational power to it, should be able to run. Which means if we were to clear out an area over here for our water wheels, and I believe we actually only really need 3 water wheels, we should fill up 3 buckets so that we can cover these with water. But if we do this, it should be able to start running, which is pretty exciting in my opinion. We actually, one more thing, andesite funnel needs to go down right here, so items can go in there. But now we should pretty much have everything other than the automation. And, oh, forgetting one other thing. I keep forgetting stuff. We need to connect these 2 belts. So we need to, I'm just going to use my hand so we don't get rid of too much. Get rid of this dirt down here and simply place down 2 encased chain drives. So if these want to place down properly, I'm just going to break these depots to place them down. Let's get one right there, and let's just make sure this one puts it down properly. Oh my gosh. We're not going to be able to get down there, are we, to properly place this down? It's too busy down there. There we go. Okay, we rotate it with the wrench. There we go. So these are now connecting these 2 to go in the same direction. Now I put those depots back down. These are good. Over here, we can set up the water wheels. I'm going to bring this out one more just so that we can have a little bit more area to work with over here. And then we'll clear out the 3 for the water wheels. So there, should get rid of those 3. And then should be able to put them down just like that. Oh, they're facing the wrong direction. Something that so many people, I have had to instruct people because people don't realize that these can, in fact, face the wrong direction. And then they will not get you the correct amount of power or speed. So they are just going to be like this. And for now, I can just use dirt on these. So we'll put it down like this and simply put water on there. there, and there. And they're running 256. Everything is spinning in here. Let's make sure all the belts are running properly. This belt coming forward. Perfect. These belts coming back and up. Again, perfect. This system going down. Perfect. This is running in the correct direction. Let's make sure. Oh, no. 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 I'm stuck in here. Okay, please do not jump out, cow. Please. When I break this, do not jump out. Okay, cool. We're good. Don't worry. And this is also spinning in the correct direction. So the final steps would be to hoe this land, to till this land right here, plant the remaining seeds, and then come up here. We can fill in some of these areas too that look kind of gross now. And come up here and we can watch as it places items in here. So it clearly already placed something. We have sugar coming up front here very quickly. Obviously because some of these grew, but they got milled down and they're able to come up front. The last couple things would be to put all the eggs in there to see how many chickens we get. So that's an important one. And then make sure that we have the buckets appropriately coming out. So I will quickly come up here and see how many chickens we can get. My gosh, this is horrible. We're not getting lucky at all. Okay, well apparently we're not going to get any. Oh no, I hit the only one out. Okay, we have one. We'll just... No! My god, guys, this is horrible. And they're going to screw up our whole setup. Oh my gosh, I need to go get more eggs. Okay, well, I will be back in a second. Okay guys, so I got some chickens in this setup here. There's only about 4 or 5 in there, but that should give us more than enough eggs because obviously the recipe only needs 1 egg compared to all the other ingredients where it needs 2 or 3 of them. So that will definitely not be the limiting factor, and we can just check that this works simply by putting eggs in here and letting them get pulled out the front. We can also check that the farm over here works. I grabbed out some bones from our skelly farm, and we can simply bone meal some of these so that we get some wheat coming out, make sure that all the seeds get dumped, and that the wheat comes out here. And then we can see that, actually we need to input some buckets first, but we can see that the milking area should work totally fine. So we're going to want to put in 6 buckets. The reason being, we want to have the 3 we're using for crafting, and then 3 on deck ready to go. So we can check that this works by putting these, well, if we could put them in that chest, we could check. But we can just dump them onto this belt right here, and they should be able to get pulled into our system up there. And then they should be used by this deployer on the cow. There we go. It should drop it out the back. Oh, this is facing the wrong direction. There we go. Another thing we got to make sure of. So this is now outputting correctly onto the belt, and we should get a sufficient amount of milk. Obviously one of the chickens got stuck in there unfortunately, but I'm not going to risk killing it and possibly killing the cow. I could probably get it if I let it out with this glass right here, but for now he can have a friend because he's trapped in there for life. So I'm not a cruel man, but the milk is then going to come in here. And so we can see that it is putting it up there, and it should actually have enough stuff to start crafting once it gets sufficient milk. So these are all sitting on the depots ready to go. And I want to see it craft just to make sure that we can get the cake out the front and put it on this filter. And then we need to talk about how we deal with a backup. So we can see it's crafting right here. The items will eventually come out the bottom. And then the cake should come out the front and come right up here. So let's watch just to be sure. It's unfortunate you can't see everything on the front because you have to put these funnels down. But regardless... There we go. We have our first cake. Now, this is the reason that I wanted to get this going is because I want to get the buckets not coming out this front part right here. So we need to put the cake on this filter and then put the bucket that we missed out the back here. So we want to make sure it gets into this system. So that one additional bucket needs to go back in there. And then the cake can come up here, and that is totally set up. The last thing we need to do, and this is optional, but it's going to be making sure that these stop running if there is a backlog in the system. So what we can do is put down stockpile switches on 3 of these. And what we'll do is put them down right here so it's facing into the chest, and then right here, and finally we can put one down right here. And these will be the chests that are for the eggs, the wheat, and for the sugar, the only one that doesn't matter is the bucket. And that's why it's actually probably pretty important you have the bucket over here, is because this gearbox is taking up the space of the stockpile switch. But the reason we're doing this is because this is a belt system carrying the items in. Belt systems, if they don't have anywhere to put the final object on the belt, will stop running. So right here, if we get a backup because this sugar cannot go in here anymore, it's not just going to kick it off, it'll stop running. So we want to make sure that if we get a bunch of sugar in here that's backed up because we have too much in here, this whole system will stop running. We won't be able to get more milk down the belt, and then this will not be able to craft more to use up the sugar, and it'll just be totally stuck. So how do we fix this? Well, we set up stockpile switches, and you can leave them on the default setting because in a regular chest, this will be the 75% will be obviously before it's full. And the goal here will be to make sure that items stop coming to this when it reaches 75% full. So the way we deal with this is by putting down some redstone links, and we can put them down just on the sides right here in case we want to enclose this in a building at some point. And then this one can just go right here. And we're going to want to set a frequency for all these. It's a shame that I took and used up some of the eggs. We're going to need some more eggs then. Wonder if I can... Do we have any sitting here? Yeah, we do. Okay, I can grab one right off here so that we can set the frequency correctly. But we're going to want to set the frequency of this one to egg. We're going to want to set the frequency of this one to wheat on frequency 1. And the frequency on this one to sugar, just so it's easy to remember which is which. But what we want to do now is come back, and you can turn this off from 2 different spots. But we're going to be doing it on this one for the sugarcane at this hopper right here. So we're going to grab out our redstone link, put it down right here, set frequency 1 to sugar, because that's the chest we need to stop from this, and then shift right click with an empty hand to set it to a receiver. So now when this gets to be very full, and we can put this on a filter or not, it doesn't matter. We can filter it on sugar, we can filter this one on wheat, and we can filter this one on eggs. It really shouldn't matter because there shouldn't be anything else going into these chests, but if you're possibly having something else in there for some reason, you can filter it. But when this is full of sugar to 75%, it will give this a redstone signal, which will signal this, which will stop items from coming through this system. So it won't back this whole thing up. And we'll do the same thing over here. What I meant when I said we can do it in 2 different ways is you can attach these to both the hopper so that these stop, but you can also, if there's room, attach them to the brass funnels so that these stop. Now we're just going to do the hopper for each of these because I like it a lot nicer when it all functions the same way. But over here, right, the hopper is right here, so we can still do this one if we cover this up on the ground right here. But we're just going to put this right here for the final one. This will be the eggs on frequency 1, shift right click to the receiver. So now if these get too full, they will completely shut off. So guys, I think that's pretty much the setup for today. As we can see, we've already got 2 cakes in here. A third one is crafting, and obviously the main limiting factor right now, while those chickens are still in there initially, is going to be the eggs, but eventually that won't be a problem anymore. But that is how you make an automated cake factory. So we will have all the cake we could possibly need, which I know you guys have been wanting for a really long time now. It's definitely a fun setup. There's obviously so much going on here. I think if you can set this up, you're probably good to set up anything in Create. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. Obviously, if you have any questions, you can feel free to post them in the comments because there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm more than happy to help you guys out. And obviously there's also stuff you can do in here differently, right? You can set up the farms differently and all that. Not a lot of leeway when it comes to setting up the cow or the chicken area, but also let me know what you guys think. If you think my suggestion that I was going on about at the beginning, where you should be able to put these in a mixer to make cake batter, then use a spout to fill a tin, just like with the blaze cakes, and then cook that down into a cake, if there should be a way to do that, let me know if you think that's a good idea, because I think that's a great idea. I don't know why it's not in here with how many food recipes they have and stuff like that. But again, I just thought that'd be a cool one. But hopefully you guys are having an awesome day. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you later.